Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of The Substance. This movie is directed by Coralie Fargett, and the movie stars Demi Moore with Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid. Now, the plot of this movie is Demi Moore plays actress Elizabeth Sparkle. She's an aging actress, and she's trying to get her youthfulness back. She's trying to be young again. And through certain means, she's able to accomplish this. But the consequences are a lot more than she bargained for. Now, going into this movie, I knew nothing about it. I just saw the trailer for it. I was like, the concept of this movie is mysterious. It stars Demi Moore, who I've missed seeing. We haven't seen her since, '07's Mr. Brooks. So I wanted to see her again. But also, I was curious what the plot was going to be. All I knew was that it had a creepy-looking Dennis Quaid in it. It had Margaret Qualley in it, who we hadn't seen since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I was really intrigued. It looked colorful, it looked different, and I knew there was going to be something either really horrific or something really funny happening in this movie. So I saw the movie, and this movie was good. It was really good. Definitely different. It's a mashup of things like Neon Demon, The Fly, even Freaky Friday in a way, but this movie was definitely different. I would say I enjoyed most of it. The end, the last 10-15 minutes get a little absurd, which I'll get into, but as far as the acting goes, Demi Moore is great in this movie, and I definitely miss seeing her. Not only is she still not afraid to say, hey, I'm Demi Moore. I was, one of the hottest stars in the 90s, but physically, she's definitely going all in this movie. I mean, you had Striptease, you had G.I. Jane, and now this, where she's not only able to bear it all, but also, emotionally. She's not a spring chicken anymore. And so for her to play this kind of role, an aging actress who wants her youthfulness, who knows that people aren't looking at her the same way they did in the early 90s, says a lot. And I'm really proud of her for taking on this role. And she still looks good. Margaret Qualley is also in this. She plays the younger version of Elizabeth Sparkle. Her name is Sue. And she's from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And let me tell you what, she is, she's very nice to look at in this movie. I didn't think her character was as deep, and there was not as strong of an emotional attachment to this character. I would say if there's a hero and a villain, even though they both have their, villainous qualities, their villainous sides, I would say Sue is more the villain in this movie. Now, Elizabeth and Sue are one and the same. They're the same person. But I only really felt the drive, the ambition, the greed come from the Sue character as opposed to the Elizabeth character. Now, there are moments where Elizabeth is saying, hey, I shouldn't be doing this, but here's why I'm continue to doing it. Here's why I'm going to continue, with the negative side effects, if you will. But I kind of felt of the two, Sue was the more selfish. Dennis Quaid is also in this. He didn't play as much of a villain as I thought he would. He's very over the top, but he's a good representation of what Hollywood can be like. When those in upper management see that you're no longer producing as much money, you don't look as well, guess what? They're going to find a replacement. And this movie is definitely a eye-opener to the way Hollywood and actors and actresses are and are perceived when it comes to youth and the way they look and getting older. This is definitely a tale, a cautionary tale of fashion and beauty in Hollywood and those that make you famous. That's why I compare this to Neon Demon. The movie looks really good. It's very colorful. It's very well shot. But it focuses a lot on the way people look and how that can affect, whether it's for good or for bad, them in, the business of Hollywood. Now, at the end of this movie, there's a moment where the film reaches its climax, and then it keeps going for another 10-15 minutes. And I will say that even though I didn't really find this movie as a dark comedy, the last chapter, if you will, in this movie definitely takes that home and makes this movie outrageous and over the top. Now, the concept alone is definitely out there, but the last, section of this movie, I was just like, if this movie was supposed to be a comedy, it definitely is now, because it was out there. Now, I'll say the highlight of this movie is the body horror. And when I say body horror, usually it could mean one of a couple things. Usually it means like there's a disfigurement in someone's body. There's, something slicing the skin. There's something involved with the skin or the body or the appearance of something that's not natural. This movie has a lot of that. So if you're squeamish, it's not for the faint of heart, and it might affect you. However, I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie because it shows you that nothing beats practical effects when it comes to horror, movies, and things that make you go, ugh, because CGI just isn't the same. The soundtrack to this movie was also really good. This film had a lot of well-done shots, from this huge painting of a younger Demi Moore in her apartment to this suspicious-looking alley that she has to go to retrieve certain items. It definitely instilled a certain feeling, which I really liked. This movie also reminded me of the film Drive with Ryan Gosling, where going into it, I thought it was going to be a fast-paced action movie, and it wasn't. It was a slower-paced, well-shot, well-produced movie, and that's what The Substance is as well. It's very well shot. It's bright colors. When Demi Moore wears this yellow jacket to run her errands, every time she throws that jacket on, it's her. And a lot of things in this movie, from billboards to this one hallway with all these posters on it, to certain other things, were really well shot. And I liked how this movie had a message. It was a cautionary tale about desires, greed, being young, being old, being a celebrity, being in the spotlight, and then not being in the spotlight. So I liked the message of this movie. I liked the way it was shot. I think the acting was really good. The last section of it was a little over the top for me, but it did kind of tie into itself at the end. The beginning of the movie starts out with a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame, and then the film ends with that as well, and I thought that was a nice tie-in to each other. So because this movie was different, it was shocking, it was unusual, and this movie has something to say, not just something that's really gross and disgusting for, sickos to cheer for, I'm going to give The Substance an A-. There were some things I wish that were done better in this movie. One thing is that it's not exactly clear if the two characters share the same mental state. I also thought it would have been neat if one of the characters, I will just say, did something to their bodies. I wonder how that would have carried over to, 1 week to the next. But again, for what we got, this movie was good, different, and original. So Demi Moore, Margot Qualley, good job, guys. Till next time, see ya.